Question number 4, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Minister of Health. Does he stand by his statement, quote, "I think we've got to be very careful before we look at tax cuts. We've got to make sure we are properly funding health and education," end quote. If so, has health been funded properly over the last 2 budgets to allow him to do everything he has wanted as Health Minister?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, yes. While Health got an extra $2.2 billion over 4 years in Budget 2016 for new initiatives and to meet cost pressures and population growth, there's always more to be done in health, and every extra dollar is helpful. And of course, my comments are focused on the future. I also stand by my comment that it's unbelievable that a previous Labor health minister could be given an extra $3 billion, but actually cut elective operations by 2,000 per year and first specialist appointments by 7,000.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Why has it taken a leadership challenge and his personal ambition for him to see that under Bill English as Minister of Finance, $1.7 billion is missing from the health budget, and health now needs to be, according to him, properly funded, having caused untold misery to sick New Zealanders over the past 8 years?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan
Look,
Coleman.
I fundamentally reject the premises of that question. I mean, once again, Mrs King's making up a whole lot of stuff, including this $1.7 billion figure. She knows for a fact that the health budget has gone up every year under this government, from about $12 billion to $16 billion over our 8 years in government, and that's the fact of it.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Why has he spent 2 years hiding the fact that health under Bill English budgets have not been properly funded, and knowing that services have closed and been cut, people have waited in more pain before getting care, police are sent out to deal with very sick mental health patients, and thousands can't afford to go to a GP?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan
There's about
Coleman.
5 things there to say no to. And once again, Mrs King is making up stories about the health system. The fact is,
Order. The member. Order. Can I just remind, I'm going to allow the Minister to finish his answer, but he can't accuse another member of making stuff up, and I refer to Speaker's ruling 46(1). The Minister can complete his answer.
Yeah, so as I was saying, there's about 5 no's in that question there, but look, we put an extra $4 billion into the health system, 6,000 extra doctors, thousands of extra first specialist appointments, and a massive uplift in electives, and the member cannot name a single service under this government that actually is not delivering more than before. And I tell you what, she wouldn't want more scrutiny of her own record, but I commend her for her bravery in asking questions in the House every week.
Order. Order. In making comments to the Minister, I used a standing Speaker's ruling 46(1). It is actually 47(4), should any member want to check it. Supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Does he now regret gloating about the government's fiscal strategy in health back in January, when he said we've slowed the growth, so the growth in health spending is down from 8 to 9% to around 2.5%, which from his comments over the past day shows that he doesn't think that health's been properly funded, or doesn't he know the meaning of the word properly?
No.
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
I think we've actually funded health extremely well, but I'm looking to the future.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Is he prepared to fund a program advising on the dangers of second-hand cigar smoke blown at people at close quarters in corporate boxes?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
No, but I think we could do with a program on staying well past your use-by date, Mrs King.
Order. Order. Question number 5.